Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 1UP Nitro National Series. We are closing in on the end of the season. There are only 3 races remaining on the Nitro National Series calendar, 2 after tonight, and we're at the beautiful Richmond Raceway out in Richmond, Virginia, for 80 laps around this 3/4-mile short track with lots of fenders being bent and feelings being hurt. It's exactly the kind of race that we come to love here in this series. Alongside me in the booth today, as always, is Duke Ansack for tonight's race. And the tensions, they're just climbing every week. We got a lot of drivers in contention for the championship, and with so few points separating all of them, really, it's just a matter of who can gain an edge in these final few races.
You're totally right. With the points between 1st and 11th in this series only ranging 67 points, it really feels like with 3 races left, anybody's got a shot. Now, for some of these drivers, it's going to be more difficult to get up there, specifically from 3rd on back. That's kind of where the biggest gap is between 2nd and 3rd in the points. So you're going to have to watch the 81 car today. You're going to have to watch the 52. Those are the 2 that are the top 2 in points. And the 52 of Keon Daley has not been qualifying as well as he'd like to be in the recent couple of races, whereas his championship competitor, Ryan Caggiano, in the 81, has been starting in the top 10. So you see him on the outside of the 3rd row to start this race. It's going to be really interesting to watch to see where they end up at the end of this thing.
You were right about that, with Keon Daley starting 15th, Ryan Caggiano starting 6th, but up at the front of the field, it's an all Chevrolet front row of Elijah Ironhouse in the 8 and Audrey Ansack in the 83, locking out the front row for your organization. Got to be happy about that, with Dylan Young lining up right behind them, Nicky Martinez 4th, Aaron Hall 5th, and as we said, Ryan Caggiano lines up 6th. As a matter of fact, 5 playoff drivers line up behind the 2 Chevrolets up front. It's going to be interesting to see how they can hold on for the early stages of this race. We've got Devin Fair starting 11th. He is always a threat on the short track. Zach Rogers has been on a hot streak lately. He starts 14th. And a lot of big names starting fairly deep in the field, so it's hard to handicap this race in anyone's favor.
For sure, I really am glad to see my cars starting up front. We got 2 non-playoff cars starting in front of a lot of playoff cars in this race, so it could get hectic really quick with all those playoff drivers who know they have a shot, a genuine shot to win this championship, and it's got to start today if it's going to start for these playoff drivers to make a run to the front of the championship. So we're going to see what happens to start this race, and I sure am excited to watch because these drivers are going to be on a rampage today.
So with that being said, the cars are lined up on the grid, and we're ready to bring you 80 laps of action from Richmond Raceway. This is the 1UP Nitro National Series from Richmond Raceway. 3 races remaining. Every lap counts. The green flag is next. As the field approaches the Geico restart zone, the green flag is out. Join us for a silent lap 1. We're underway at Richmond. How about the start? Audrey Ansack got around the outside of Elijah Ironhouse, taking the lead away for the first time in her career. That 83 car looks good out front and got a wingman behind her in Ironhouse to hold the field at bay while these 2 Chevrolets dominate the early stages.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that outside lane really worked, and I wasn't expecting that this early in the race. I thought that maybe towards the end with some tire fall off, with some rubber in the bottom lane, the outside lane might start to come in, be a little bit faster, but right off the get-go, the 83 jumps out front on the outside lane and makes it happen. And it's starting to drive away a little bit here. We'll see if those 2 drivers in the 8 and the 83 are able to hold off the rest of the field for much longer here. The playoff drivers are hungry.
And none more so than Dylan Young trying to claw back a points deficit. And Ryan Caggiano and Nicky Martinez now side by side for the 4th position on the racetrack. That looks like it'll be settled in favor of the 81. But right now it's the 83 of Audrey Ansack leading the way, completing lap number 4. She's led all 4 laps so far with a comfortable half-second lead over teammate Elijah Ironhouse in the 8. And right now, Dylan Young would move up to third in the points with this run right here. He's well ahead of Sam Donotto in the 00 to get him there. And he's looking to cement himself into the podium positions here at Richmond. But I'm sure he'd love a victory even more.
Yeah, so here's something to watch right here with this group of cars. When the 8 car has those 2 cars right behind, they're stacked up, and there's actually a move being made by the 81 right now. But when those cars are stacked up, that's usually a sign to me that the car in front of them is holding them up a little bit when you get a long train of cars like that. So we'll see how fast they're able to get by Elijah Ironhouse while that car struggles to start this run. And if it's enough time for Audrey to jump out there and get a bigger lead than she already has. We'll see. Maybe the move is going to come in turn 3. It looks like it will. Oh, but Caggiano jumps down. Now he's going to jump to the bottom. He's going to try to make the move on the front stretch. Oh, it's really tight to get out of there on the bottom lane. Just not enough momentum. He's going to have to surrender that position. No, he won't. He's going to stay down there. We'll see. This is an interesting battle right here. Outside, inside. You get a good run through the middle on the inside, but on exit, the outside lane is the place to be when you're getting past, because it is just great, the run that you get. It's incredible. The 92 showed it really well right there.
And keep in mind, some of these cars may pull down onto the inside line down the front stretch to try and ward off any challengers coming into turn 1. We'll see that often throughout this race. But the lead is holding steady at about 0.6 of a second between teammates out in front, and followed by Dylan Young and then the 2 Kings Motorsports cars behind them, with Hall and Jackson in 6th and 7th. No one else really challenging for the top positions at the moment. But right now, that gap is closing. It's down to half a second now. So it looks like Ironhouse is starting to find his feet a little in this race.
Yeah, you know, and we've made it to lap 10 without mentioning it, but we have to now. The lap cars in this race will be an issue. It's a short track here at Richmond Raceway. You know, we'll have to deal with it at some point. These leaders will catch up to the back of the field. They will have to fight through those cars, and the person who gets through better is gonna be able to close in. And we've seen in recent short track races that the lap cars, it's really all about just passing them. You have to just pass them because it's going to be equally difficult for everybody to pass them. So it's a matter of making sure that you're able to make the pass before they catch you. And if you're able to do that, I think you're going to be fine. But it will be something that these drivers have to deal with.
Looking back now at Keon Daley, the points leader, currently running in the 14th position, just behind Kyle Corbett and just in front of Zach Rogers. That's for Jeff Baru battling him for that position. Keon Daley would still leave this race the points leader if he could finish right there, but I know he wants another top 10 to cement his points lead even higher, because he's going to lose points to Ryan Caggiano regardless if the 81 stays where he is. So this 52 car is just trying to minimize the damage, get past the 86, the 00, the 01, maybe even the 50 and the 6 ahead of them to try and move up the running order, because he needs a good run if he's going to leave here as champion.
You're right. You know, he has to just be with those other playoff drivers, and right now he just isn't. You know, he's been starting these races so poorly that he's only having to pass cars. That will turn into the downfall of that team if it remains. But for now, the race up front, nothing has changed at this point. You know, the lead is still a half second, and then Elijah Ironhouse has got four hungry playoff drivers, right? In fact, it's 5, right? 5 playoff drivers right behind. This is kind of wild to watch these 2 non-playoff cars put the beat down on these playoff cars early in this race.
Just shows that teamwork is key on the short tracks. You got one rear gunner helping the driver out in front, but it looks like the gap is shrinking a little bit between Anzac and Ironhouse. It looks like the 8 car making some gains on his teammate a little bit. Remember, this is the first time she's ever led a Nitro National Series race. It's all new experiences, and Ironhouse has a lot more experience in this series, so he knows exactly where to put his car in these positions. And the gap is closing. It's down to 0.3 of a second now. I'm curious to see if this 8 car can get the lead away, and if he can, where he'll do it.
Yeah, you know, you're right. And Elijah Ironhouse this season, he has a win, 5 top 5s, 9 top 10s. I mean, he almost made the playoffs, and right now he's in a fierce battle with Felix Anderson for that 13th position. He's just that next driver that's not in the playoffs. So that's an important thing for that 8 team, you know, to be the best of the rest. Even though you miss the playoffs, you still want to try to give yourself a goal to meet, something to fight for. And here at Richmond, he's gaining more and more points on Anderson. You don't even see that 87 car in the top 10 right now, so this is big points. But of course, Elijah Ironhouse wants to get another win. That's just what he does, fights for wins all the time. And you know, he's right there right now. Of course, we're only about a quarter of the way through this race.
And he wants to get that win on a non-super speedway as well to cement himself there.
Oh, here he comes.
Makes a move to the inside of the 83 for the lead. He sends it in really deep. Coming out of turn 2, they're going to be side by side down the back straightaway. Who's Dylan Young going to go with? Is he going to help the 8? Is he going to wash up, help the 83? Coming through 3 and 4, they're going to remain side by side. It's going to be a drag race. Coming to the line, it looks like Ironhouse nips her at the line to lead that lap. But this is still an intense battle for the lead as the 2 Team Duke Chevrolets battle it out for the lead here at Richmond.
Yeah, watch that 83 on the outside coming around turn 2. Great run, just like lap 1. Got a huge run on the outside, enters wide, cuts low, see if you can get the momentum. Oh, down the front stretch, the outside doesn't work quite as well as it does on the back stretch. We'll see it's still side by side, 2 by 2 now, and the 83 clears for the lead, keeping that position. They're really well done from the outside lane. From Audrey Anzac there. It's such a so early in Audrey's career, you know, this race is, you know, just started at the beginning of the playoffs this season, and now out front trying to fend off playoff drivers and teammates, and it looks like that 92 is going to get by the 8 car, so we'll see what Dylan Young has for young Audrey Anzac ahead.
This is only her 8th career start in this series. No top 10s yet, but looking to add that to her racing resume. Currently leading this race, has led all but 1 lap so far. And now, as you said, Dylan Young now in 2nd position. What can he do to try and take the lead away? He has won twice this season. He won at Texas World, and he won at Darlington. So he knows how to win on the high abrasion, big racetracks. Not so much on the short tracks, but he's certainly putting on the show here. And it looks like he's going to try and make a move on the 83 as early as turn 1.
Yeah, it was pretty defensive down the front stretch for Audrey there. I don't know why you'd defend the bottom with a car that's that strong on the top. We'll have to see how it works out. Dylan Young goes to the bottom. I think that'll be okay. Audrey's really good on the outside. In fact, that's the most impressive thing about that 83 car right now is how well it's able to defend on the outside. Look at that. Just 1 corner on the outside, starts to drive away. And keeps the lead right there, keeps clear of the lead. And Elijah Ironhouse, I thought as soon as he got past, he'd start to fall even farther back. But he's hanging around. He's not going anywhere in this thing, not quite yet.
But Dylan Young is hungry for his 3rd win, trying to claw his way closer to the championship lead. He's still got a shot at becoming champion, but his time is running out with only 3 races remaining, only 2 after this race is over at Richmond. So anything can still happen among the top 11 in this championship. Sam Donato currently holds the fastest lap here of a 21.95, but right now it is Dylan Young and Audrey Anzac battling for the lead as we enter lap 28 of 80.
Yeah, and Dylan Young has not been able to make another move. Hasn't gotten close enough yet. I think that Dylan Young is going to want to try to get to the outside. It just seems like that's the best passing position. Nobody's really running that lane unless they're defending, which is curious to me. I wonder if there's anybody that's going to move up there just to see. I wonder if they've kind of decided that that's too abrasive of a lane to run all the time at this track. Now the 92 goes low again, but the 83 is going to get a huge run down the backstretch. And look at the gap that's created. I really would like to see somebody try to run out there just by themselves, not defending a pass. I think that they could really smoke this field if they were to do that. But maybe these drivers know something that. Oh, here comes Dylan Young on the way outside. I think that might be too far outside.
Yeah, he lost a lot of time. But you would think that high abrasion surface on the outside, you'd think Dylan Young would thrive in a place like that. Remember, like I just said, his 2 wins came at Texas World, a very abrasive 2-mile super speedway, and at Darlington, one of the most abrasive tracks we go to all season long. So Dylan Young very good at managing tires and running on these high abrasive racetracks. So he knows how to make low grip surfaces work, and he's still within striking distance of this 83 as we enter lap 32.
Yeah, you know, the only thing I can guess is that maybe these drivers and their crew chiefs have thought about it, and they decided that, you know, for the first part of this race, the majority of the beginning at least, they should try to stay to the bottom as much as they can unless they're defending, or maybe they didn't know and they're kind of afraid to go up there because all the rubber is being put down on that bottom lane, the whole field running that bottom lane, so it's going to cause less tire wear down there. There probably won't be a pit stop in this race, so you really have to save your tires in it. So that's the only thing I can guess as to why nobody has gone up there to really start gaining time. But I'd look to see that 52 Keon Daley, if he could jump out there, gain some spots. Maybe Alex in the 3 car who's stuck back in the field could go out there. Here's another move to the bottom from Dylan Young in the 83. On the outside, it's going to get loose. Let's see. They're able to stay side by side. What's going to happen into turn 3?
Dylan Young has a nose advantage over Adrian Sack, and it looks like he'll be able to clear coming out of turn 4. We have our second lead change of the race. Dylan Young takes the lead here at Richmond.
Wow, that was an impressive move. Just perfect timing from the 92. We had just been talking all about how good that outside lane is, and then all of a sudden the inside lane makes the pass for the lead. So definitely these guys know something I don't, because this is an interesting thing. So we'll see now the 83 in traffic for the first time with dirty air. Let's see what she's able to do with that car as far as trying to get back to the lead.
I truly believe, though, that Dylan Young does have one of, if not the fastest car on the racetrack, and he's going to pull away here from this 83. I believe the 2 Chevrolets at the front were holding the field up, at least at the start. I believe Ironhouse is still doing that to Ryan Caggiano in the 81 back there in the 4th position. And as you can see, the gap's already grown to half a second between Young and Anzac at the front of the field. So Dylan Young is really, I believe, got the car to beat here tonight. If maybe Ryan Caggiano can get around these two, maybe he can challenge. But we've only just got about over half the race still to come. As you can see that defensive line down the front straightaway, we see it again, and here comes Caggiano on Ironhouse for 3rd.
Yeah, almost makes the move happen on the bottom. Looks like he's going to have the nose into 3, and I think you get enough of a run going into the corner on the bottom that you're able to clear, and the 8 isn't able to cut down because the 25 is there. So Ryan Caggiano completes the pass there for 3rd place, and now Ironhouse is stuck. Oh, he's going to be able to get back down to the bottom there. He was going to be stuck on the outside. 25 gave him a favor, letting him back down into what is 4th place now in this race. So, you know, I think that you're right about Dylan Young, though, having the fastest car. I think that he was really good in traffic, and of course everything just gets better once you're out in front of the field. So we'll have to see. We're only halfway through this race. We haven't caught lap traffic yet. So once these guys catch the lap cars, that's going to introduce a whole new element to this race. And here comes Caggiano to the inside of Audrey Anzac for 2nd.
I believe Caggiano's got a very good short track car. Remember, he won at Bristol earlier this season and at Nashville, which we don't really consider much to be a short track, but it never hurts to have more wins under your belt in this series especially. So with 2 wins under his belt already, looking for a 3rd, Ryan Caggiano is just looking to capitalize, and he's trying to get around this 83, which is just so good on the outside. But I think that 81's just that little bit better, and a drag race to the line, I think it'll be Caggiano's position.
You're right, and the 83 just sends it into that corner. Let's see. She's able to kind of stay up there in the middle of the corner. The outside struggles, but she's going to get a good run off. Except if she stays out there going into 3 and 4, she gets loose in the middle. Let's see if it happens. No, she's going to be able to cut down. Oh, not enough. The 81 still there. What a battle this is for 2nd place. We'll see what happens into turn 1. The 81 sneaks ahead just a little bit, but Audrey's going to get a run in the middle. There it is. She gets a good run off the corner, too, so now she's nosed ahead.
And while this happens, Dylan Young is stretching his lead now to 1.6 seconds. And meanwhile, still, Nicky Martinez has gotten around Elijah Ironhouse for the 4th position. But look at Dylan Young's lead. It's 1.7 seconds now between himself and now the new 2nd place car, Ryan Caggiano, who finally does clear the 83. We'll see what Ryan Caggiano can do in the closing stages of this race.
Boy, it took a while for the 81 to complete that pass. I mean, Audrey Anzac put up a heck of a fight on the outside lane with that race car. You know, it's just interesting to watch to see what happens here.
But
now
you can see the gap closed by a 10 as soon as Caggiano cleared the 83. So that's going to allow him to make up some time perhaps on Dylan Young. We'll see what the gap is this time by. We only have 35 laps to go in this race, remember. So as Caggiano crossed the line, he slashed the gap down by another 2/10. So Caggiano is clearly the faster car of these two. Can Dylan Young hang on for another 35 laps?
That's interesting to me because if Dylan Young does catch the lap traffic in this race, that's going to significantly slow him down. And if he's the slower car already, we could have ourselves a race on our hands. But by the end of this thing, look, it's down to 1.3 seconds now. Audrey Anzac not keeping up with that pace, down 1.9, almost 2 seconds there. Nikki Martinez is working on her from behind. So we'll see if this 81 is able to catch. Let's see what the gap is coming to the line here. Dylan Young crosses, and now the gap 1.26. So not as much of a gain as we've seen. There's a battle for third with Nikki Martinez now and Audrey Anzac. There you see that. Audrey's going to get a good run off the outside lane like normal, but of course we've seen that battle won on the inside a couple of times now. And yeah, she's going to be able to keep it this time on the outside lane. Nikki Martinez goes defensive down the front stretch. Ironhouse not that close quite yet, and the gap up front has been extended to 1.6.
Yeah, Caggiano dropped off a little bit, but we'll see what he can regain on this lap. He still has 30 laps to try and regain that ground. And like you said, lap traffic could be a factor at the very end of this race. And as you can see, Caggiano cut the lead down by a 2/10 there. So he's back to his usual ways of cutting down that lead. No lap traffic in sight at the moment for Dylan Young. So with 30 laps to go, I imagine they won't be caught until the absolute end of this race.
Yeah, you know, that's fascinating to me that they haven't started catching that lap traffic at a higher rate of speed. But looking at the practice, or not the practice times, but the qualifying times, you know, our pole sitter Elijah Ironhouse set a 22.02 second lap, and the last place driver in the 99 set a 22.4, so that's only a 4/10 gap as far as qualifying time goes. These cars today just seem to be that the performance gap, the speed difference between first and last is not that high, which has made it so that these leaders have had clean track for most of this race. It's a mess in the back of the field with everybody racing each other at the same speed, but right now for the leaders, they're enjoying the clean air.
And no one's enjoying it more than Dylan Young in this 92, who's got a 1.2 second lead over Ryan Caggiano. Both drivers looking for their third win of the season to tie Mark Davey and it looks like San Donato for the most wins all season. But Davey got all three of his on the road courses, including last week at Denver, while San Donato got his at a variety of different racetracks. But right now, Young and Caggiano each looking to become the third driver to score 3 wins in the Nitro National Series. It's going to be an interesting battle because Caggiano's closing that gap every lap, it seems. But with each lap that passes, he's just running out of time more and more because now we only have about 25 laps to go.
Yeah, and let's see. So the gap has stayed just about the same. The 92, in fact, set a faster lap that time, but you know, we're able to see that gap on the cameras now. You know, you're able to see Dylan Young while we're watching Caggiano here in second place. So, you know, the gap is there. The 81 can see the 92. The 92 is aware of the 81 at this point. So it's all about setting qualifying laps. And look, 2/10 have been knocked off of that lead. It's almost under a second at this point. It's just above. And I think that the 81 will get there after so long. It's just got to be qualifying lap after qualifying lap, setting the fastest lap you can, hitting all your marks, don't slide, don't spin the tires, you know, don't hit the apron, don't do any of those things to see if you can get there. Now it's exactly 1 second on the leaderboard separates these two drivers. It's going to be a heck of a battle at the finish of this race in just over 20 laps time.
Just keep in mind, though, as Caggiano catches Young, that dirty air off the 92 will start to interfere with this 81's handling a little bit. So, yep, you can see it right there. He lost about a 10th and a half. So that dirty air is playing havoc with the front end of that 81, and that is just allowing Dylan Young to stay free and clear. But I do believe Caggiano still has the faster car. If he can brute force his way through the dirty air, he'll be right on the back bumper at a 92 before you know it.
For sure, you know, and well, he's lost another 10th there, but it's something that maybe fans will question. How is air impacting these guys? They're at a short track. Well, it's a fast short track. You know, these cars punch a hole through the air anywhere they go just because of the speed they're going. And when you mess up that air, it's not exactly perfect every time it hits your car. It hits your car differently every time, and it's a little bit unpredictable, and it makes it more difficult to handle. So it's finally down to less than a second between these two drivers. But you know, the dirty air is going to hurt, and then of course at some point the dirty air from the back of the field is going to hurt the 92 if it isn't already. So it's just something you have to deal with as a driver in this series, and right now it's coming into play for the win of this race.
20 laps to go from Richmond, and you can see the gap stabilizing at about 1 second, maybe a 1.1 here and there. But Dylan Young, you can see the back end of the field now in your shot. So Dylan Young is catching them. I'd say it'd be about another 10 to 15 laps before he catches them completely. But by then, I think Caggiano will be right there because he's already cut the gap down to 8/10, and it's only getting closer and closer with each passing lap. Richmond is proving to be quite the interesting race for these Nitro National Series drivers, as there's a lot on the line with only 2 races remaining after this one.
You're right, and Ryan Caggiano needs to get all the points he can get today to try to gain on the 52, especially because the 52 has not improved his position very much in this race. He's still not in the top 10. You know, in past races we've seen that he's able to drive up through the field, but not today. And I'll tell you what, that 81 for sure knows that situation. He has got to go out there and maximize, but at the same time, Dylan Young, who's sitting in 4th place in points right now, he's only 46 points behind. So he's thinking the same thing. I've got to get all the points I can get today, try to go out here and win this race. So it's going to be an all-out brawl once this 81 catches the 92. And I also agree that he will get there at some point. It's just going to be a matter of trying to pass him that determines this race.
And the gap has closed to 0.6 of a second between Young and Caggiano for the race lead. Coming through turn 2 for the 65th time in this race. The lap traffic is about half a straightaway ahead of Dylan Young right now. So it's gonna be close between these two. But even without the help of the lap traffic, Caggiano is gaining every lap it seems, and he cut another 2/100ths out of his lead there, down to 0.5 of a second. Half a second now, the gap between Young and Caggiano. This is gonna be very interesting. Which driver can get their 3rd career win first?
Yeah, this is going to be really fascinating to see just who of these two drivers is going to get up there. Watch. This is going to be a big chunk out of that lead right here. Okay, it wasn't that big of a chunk, but you can see the difference between these two cars. The 81 and the 92 are just fighting for every little 10th, little 100th they can get out of the laps. We're approaching 10 laps to go, and they're catching up to the back end of the field. This is going to be exciting. I can't even believe that this has come down to it like this. I thought as soon as those two, I mean the 81 and the 83 battled for 3 or 4 laps side by side. They lost so much time to Dylan Young, and now the 81 has gotten back up there. He's caught Dylan Young, and now he's just got to get up there a little bit closer, try to pass him, and see what happens. You know, it's an epic recovery in this race so far.
Coming to 12 laps to go from Richmond, and the gap now is stabilized at about half a second, but I believe once they catch the lap traffic, that gap will shrink even more. You can see John McBain in the last place car only about a quarter of a straightaway ahead. You can see him right there in the 27. Dylan Young closing up on the 27 in a big hurry, and that dirty air, as we talked about earlier, is being poured on to the 92 now. But he's increased his gap by a whopping 0.3 that lap. So Dylan Young's starting to pull away a little bit, but I imagine that's all going to change once he gets to the back bumper of that 27 cars. We're coming to 10 to go this time.
You're right, and here's the thing about the dirty air, right? On the straightaway, you want to be right behind that car in front of you because they're breaking up the air, allowing your car to move through it faster, but what you're sacrificing is downforce. You don't have any, so that's why you don't want to be directly behind them in the corners. It's hurting your car in the corners because you want the downforce there. So it's a trade-off, and right now the 92 is stuck behind that 27. Here comes Ryan Caggiano.
Well, let's see what the gap is at the line. Coming to 9 laps to go. The gap has been cut in half. It's down to 0.3 of a second between Dylan Young and Ryan Caggiano. But Young gets to the inside of John McFadden to put him a lap down. This is going to be an interesting battle, because if the 92 can get ahead of this 27 car, that will be a challenge for Ryan Caggiano, unless the 81 can slip in right behind the 92 and they can both clear the 27 at the same time. Oh, the gap's down to just under 0.3, and McFadden looks like he's going to be fighting Caggiano pretty hard here. That could allow Dylan Young to pull away here.
Yeah, Caggiano did not catch him in a good place. He had to sacrifice. Oh, and he's going to be stuck behind him now. That's going to be a huge disadvantage. He had to sacrifice coming out of turn 2 his speed, and now he's still stuck behind him. He's not going to have the run down the front stretch to even pass him.
And he lost half a second there to Dylan Young on that lap. 7 laps to go. And now I believe Dylan Young's got this race sewn up if he can get by these lap cars in a hurry, one of which you can see is Christian Russell in the 26. He was last in the playoff standings going in, and if he would have finished right where he is right now, he would be mathematically eliminated from the championship contention when this is all said and done. It's a tough break for him. He's yet to get a ride for next year, as Dylan Young last did McMillan here, but Dylan Young's got a seconds lead to play with now. He can afford to take his time with these guys now to try and cement his race win, as we now have 5 laps to go.
Yeah, so he's got a lot of drivers to pass. In fact, he went all the way to the bottom there. He's struggling to pass the 21, but the 81 has still not gotten by that 27 car. So, you know, this thing is not looking good for Ryan Caggiano. He's got to get by. He's jumping to the bottom. Let's see if he can get it this time. I don't know why he hasn't tried to go to the outside. You'd think he would. Now he's there. Let's see if he can get him. I don't know if there's enough time. I mean, he's got to get by the 21 now.
4.
Yeah, this is interesting.
We've got 4 laps to go from Richmond Raceway. And Ryan Caggiano, while he does clear John McFadden, or at least mostly clear the 27, he now has to work his way around the 21. And that is a superstar series driver behind the wheel, that thing, who does not want to get out of the way for anybody. 3 laps to go from Richmond.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, the 92, he's going to be... Oh, he gets held up by the 26. Almost chopped him there. That wasn't very good. Dylan Young is going to have to sacrifice some time by exiting on the bottom of the racetrack. And, you know, Caggiano's right there. He's gone to the outside. Let's see if he can get a run. Maybe cross over. Cross low. I don't think there's enough time to pass 2 cars. And then the 92 is going for another position. Not going to happen. Of course, that's track position that I mentioned, you know, and oh man, it's so close but so far away for Ryan Caggiano in this race right now.
Coming to the white flag this time, Dylan Young in search of his 3rd career win. Ryan Caggiano looking for his 3rd career win. The white flag is in the air one more time around from Richmond, and Dylan Young's got a 0.4 of a second lead and 1 buffer car between himself and Ryan Caggiano. Coming through turn 2 for the final time, stuck behind Christian Russell, but he won't care at all about that. Coming through 3 and 4 for the final time, really put the bumper to the 26, it's not necessary. Coming through 3 and 4 for the final time, Dylan Young executed a perfect race, and he gets his 3rd career win at Richmond Raceway. Ryan Caggiano 2nd, Audrey Ansek 3rd, Nicky Martinez 4th, and Elijah Ironhouse from pole. Rounds out the top 5 ahead of Aaron Hall, Jared Jackson, Sam Donato, Keith Hughes, Devin Fair rounding out the top 10 in this race. But in all honesty, with Earl Sears just missing the top 10 and 11. But this was a very close battle for the win that was all decided by the lap traffic and how they decided to play a little less than nicely with the race leaders.
You're absolutely right. You know, it took them a while to catch up to those lap cars, but once they did, it really decided the fate of this race. And you know, while the 92 is the big winner today, he gains the most points and he wins the race, gets the trophy. I'd say as much as that 2nd place stings, the 81 is going to be pretty happy to look at the points going out of this race in comparison to Keon Daley, because he definitely gained a lot today. So we'll see how it works out in the end, and we've only got 2 more after this until we decide a champion.
We've only got 11 cars left in contention to win the championship. Christian Russell knocked out. So, we have a week off in the Nitro National Series, but we will return in 2 weeks' time at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Remember that great duel between Elijah Ironhouse and Axel Jeparud there in the spring? We're going to have something just as spectacular there in the fall, and we hope you'll join us for that race as well, because after that race, it's only Homestead Miami left for these Nitro National Series drivers in their bid for a series championship. So, from Duke Anzac and from myself as well, we say goodbye from Richmond Raceway, our final short track race of the season. 2 races left. The gap at the top of the table has gone down with Dylan Young in victory lane here at the Richmond Raceway.